On Sunday evening, August 15th, 1971, President Richard Nixon interrupted primetime television to deliver a 15-minute address to the nation. The subject was economics, not war, not scandal, economics. 70 million Americans tuned in, expecting reassurance about rising prices and unemployment that had hit 6.1%. What they got instead was the death of money as they knew it. Nixon announced that the United States would no longer exchange dollars for gold. Not temporarily, forever. With a single sentence, he severed the last thread connecting currency to physical reality. From that moment forward, every dollar in your wallet became backed by nothing but faith. This is the financial historian, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. August 15th, 1971 didn't feel like a revolution. But it was. That Sunday night marked the precise moment when the entire global financial system shifted from something tangible to something imaginary, and most people didn't even notice. To understand what died that day, you need to understand what money used to be. For over 2 centuries, dollars weren't just pieces of paper. They were receipts, promises, claims on real gold sitting in vaults. Under the Bretton Woods system established in 1944, the United States pledged to exchange dollars for gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. Every other major currency was pegged to the dollar, and the dollar was pegged to gold. This wasn't theoretical. Foreign governments could actually ship their dollars to the United States and demand physical gold in return. France did exactly that. So did Germany. Throughout the 1960s, nations holding American dollars began converting them to gold and loading it onto ships bound for their own vaults. The drain was relentless. By August 1971, U.S. gold reserves had fallen to just 10,000 metric tons. That's 352 million ounces, less than half the peak amount held after World War II. Meanwhile, there were 4 times as many dollars circulating globally as there was gold to back them. The math didn't work anymore. Something had to break. On Friday, August 13th, Nixon summoned 15 advisors to Camp David: Federal Reserve Chairman Arthur Burns, Treasury Secretary John Connally, Paul Volcker, who would later chair the Fed himself. No phones, no leaks. They had 48 hours to redesign the world economy. The United States was hemorrhaging gold. Inflation sat at 5.8%. The trade deficit, the first since the 19th century, was widening. American exports were too expensive. Imports too cheap. The dollar was overvalued, but because it was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce, there was no way to devalue it without admitting the gold standard was dead. Connally laid out the options: raise the gold price, let the dollar float, or close the gold window entirely and force other nations to revalue their currencies instead. Nixon chose the nuclear option: shut it down, all of it. That Sunday night, Nixon told Americans he was protecting them from international speculators. He announced a 90-day freeze on wages and prices to fight inflation, a 10% tariff on all imports to reduce the trade deficit. And then, almost casually, he said the United States would suspend the convertibility of the dollar into gold. He called it temporary. It wasn't. The gold window never reopened. What Nixon didn't say was that this decision had been made months earlier. Archival evidence shows Treasury officials discussing closing the gold window as early as May 1971. The August crisis was real, but it was also convenient. A perfect excuse to announce a policy already decided. Strategic timing disguised as emergency response. Within hours of Nixon's speech, foreign exchange markets went haywire. On August 16th and 17th, the Bank of Japan bought $1.3 billion, trying to prop up the exchange rate and keep the yen pegged at 360 yen per dollar. It didn't work. Japan's reserves ballooned to $2.7 billion in a week, then $4 billion the following week. The dollar was collapsing against every major currency. In December 1971, representatives from the Group of 10 met at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington to salvage the system. They agreed to new exchange rates. The dollar would be devalued slightly against gold, now priced at $38 per ounce instead of $35. Other currencies would revalue upward. Nixon called it the greatest monetary agreement in world history. It lasted 16 months. By March 1973, the Smithsonian Agreement collapsed. Currencies floated freely against each other. The Bretton Woods system was dead. and gold, once fixed at $35 per ounce, began climbing. By January 1980, it hit $850. Today, it trades above $4,600 per ounce. That's a 13,000% increase. Or, looked at another way, a 99% loss in the dollar's value measured against gold. But here's the paradox. The dollar didn't die. It became more powerful than ever. Without gold backing, the Federal Reserve could create as many dollars as needed. No more constraints, no more ships arriving to drain Fort Knox. The dollar became pure fiat currency, money by government decree. This should have destroyed confidence. Instead, it cemented American dominance. Because even without gold, the world still needed dollars. Oil was priced in dollars. International debts were denominated in dollars. Central banks held dollars as reserves. The dollar's value was no longer anchored to metal. It was anchored to the size and strength of the American economy and the military power that protected it. Nixon's decision didn't kill the dollar. It freed it. But it also transformed what money meant. Before 1971, currency represented a claim on something real. After 1971, currency became a claim on nothing. Its value derived entirely from collective belief, from trust that the government wouldn't print too much, from faith that others would accept it tomorrow. And for 50 years, that faith has held. But the consequences have been profound. Since 1971, every major economy has operated on fiat currency. Governments can now create money at will. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet, which held $4 trillion in 2020, exploded to $9 trillion by 2022. Central banks worldwide injected trillions during the 2008 financial crisis, then trillions more during COVID-19. None of that would have been possible under a gold standard. This flexibility allowed governments to respond to crises, but it also enabled decades of deficit spending, asset bubbles, and inflation. Between 1971 and 2025, the U.S. Treasury's national debt grew from $398 billion to over $38 trillion, a hundredfold increase. Under a gold standard, that level of borrowing would have been impossible. The architects of the Nixon Shock understood what they were doing. Paul Volcker later admitted that closing the gold window was both necessary and dangerous. Necessary because the Bretton Woods system was unsustainable. Dangerous because it removed the final brake on monetary expansion. Arthur Burns, the Fed chairman, warned Nixon that abandoning gold could unleash inflation. He was right. The 1970s brought stagflation, double-digit inflation combined with stagnant growth. It took Volcker's appointment as Fed chair in 1979 and brutal interest rate hikes above 20% to break inflation's back. But the deeper transformation was philosophical. Money stopped being a thing and became an idea, a shared fiction. The value of a dollar exists only because everyone agrees it does. That agreement is enforced by tax obligations, legal tender laws, and the full faith and credit of the United States government. But strip away the enforcement, and what remains? Nothing. This isn't conspiracy, it's design. Fiat currency works precisely because governments control both its creation and its destruction through taxes. You need dollars to pay taxes. Taxes give dollars value. And because dollars have value, people work for them, save them, and invest with them. Nixon didn't just close the gold window. He completed a century-long transition from commodity money to debt-based money, from a system where currency represented stored value to one where currency represents a promise. And promises, unlike gold, can be manufactured infinitely. Fort Knox still holds 147 million ounces of gold today, officially valued at $42.22 per ounce, a price set in 1973 and never updated. At that book value, the gold is worth $6.2 billion. At market prices above $4,600 per ounce, it's worth over $675 billion. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter. The gold in Fort Knox doesn't back the dollar anymore. It's a relic, a strategic reserve, a symbol of stability. But the currency system doesn't need it. The United States could sell every ounce tomorrow and the dollar would function exactly the same. That's the legacy of August 15, 1971. Money became weightless, invisible, infinite. And as long as people believe in it, the system works. But belief is fragile. And the moment that belief cracks, the numbers stop mattering. The dollar didn't die on August 15th, 1971. It was reborn. But what it became is something previous generations would barely recognize. A currency backed by nothing, trusted by everyone, and controlled by a central bank with unlimited power to create it. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.